Before we start, I thank these friends for their financial support, and I thank everyone for the likes and comments. Suddenly, the door opened, and 6 orcs emerged. They received orders to lure the recently escaped humans. In that moment, Ryu stepped forward, wielding his scythe, and said calmly, "Why are you searching so intently?" And with a swift and brutal motion, an orc's limbs came crashing down, the grim sound of its fall filling the air. And before the remaining orcs could even raise their axes from their waists, their hands and feet were severed swiftly. Then Ryu stepped back as if his role were completed. Now it was Minjuri's turn, her rapier gracefully ending the orcs' lives. Minjuri sighed in relief and said, "It's done." Then Ryu said to her, "Then, let's lure them again," Minjuri inquired. "Will they fall for it again?" Ryu replied. "They might possess some intelligence, but they forget things as quickly as goldfish." After that, Minjuri ventured into the house once more, repeating the process. And when Ryu Min cuts off the orcs' limbs, Minjuri quickly eliminates the orcs. Their coordinated efforts became increasingly efficient as they continued their task, almost like a well-practiced team. By the time orc summon corpses piled up next to the huts, Minjuri's voice rang out with joy. "Black Scythe! We've captured all 300! Ryu Min checked his progress window and said, "Exactly 1 hour has passed." Then Minjuri said happily, "In just 1 hour, we had managed to capture 248 orcs, reaching the impressive total of 300. And she expressed her gratitude, saying, "Thanks to you, Black Scythe, we could hunt comfortably and quickly. I'm truly grateful." Ryu Min smiled, appreciating her sincerity, and asked her, "How much did your level go up?" Minjuri proudly said, "I've already reached level 19. Then Ryu commented, "Just 10,000 more experience points, and you'll rank up." And he continued saying to himself, ranking up would grant her the ability to learn new skills and enhance existing ones, making her an even more valuable ally. So he said to her, "But what if I help you reach level 20? Minjuri hesitated and said, "Oh, you really don't have to." Ryu said, "No, I need to. Helping you reach level 20 will benefit me. I need to get a buff from you so I can set a record when I capture the High Orc." As in the 5th round, there were 4 formidable bosses. Among them, the High Orc was a particularly powerful foe, almost on par with a mid-boss. And that's why High Orc is different from other bosses. Even the time for kill rule applies differently to him. Then he said to himself, "I have to raise Minjuri's level to 20, receive the 2 buffs. Then I can attempt to break the record." Without even knowing that, Minjuri raised her hand to refuse and said, "You don't have to help me anymore." Ryu asked her, "So does that mean we won't hunt together anymore?" She replied quickly, "No way. How could I run away after receiving such great help? This time I have to help Black Scythe." Then Ryu said, trying to convince her, "If you want to help, do it after you reach level 20. I'll take care of you until then." Hearing that, Minjuri remained silent, her face not reflecting annoyance or frustration, but rather deep thought. And she said to herself, "I can't believe Black Scythe cares so much about me." Then she said, with expression revealed her gratitude for the unexpected help, It's a bit shameless, but I'll be in your care." She finally agreed. Ryu said, "Sure, let's start the work again." But their conversation was interrupted by a rumbling sound from behind. Ryu and Minjuri simultaneously turned their heads to see a group approaching. This was no ordinary gathering. It was a party consisting of 5 men. Then one of them exclaimed, "Hey, take a look over there. Isn't that a Black Scythe?" The men, upon spotting Ryu Min, suddenly froze in their tracks, clearly taken aback. It was as though they had stumbled upon a lion in the midst of a tranquil meadow. At that moment, Ryu Min couldn't help but wonder why he felt a pang of unease. After all, these weren't monsters. They were players, and said to himself, "Surely they wouldn't attack me unless they've gone completely mad." Then one of that group said, "Look, there's a woman with him." The men, their initial vigilance slowly waning, exchanged uncertain glances, and one of the men ventured hesitantly and said, "Hello?" But Ryu Min remained silent, his expression akin to someone bothered by pesky flies, his brow furrowed. Another inquired cautiously, "What's going on here?" As he spoke, their collective gaze shifted in unison, drawn to a peculiar sight. And they said, "How many of those beasts did they bring down? They managed to kill all these orcs?" And their shock quickly turned into comprehension, as responsible for the slain orcs were none other than the black scythes. And they started talking to themselves. Wait a moment. There were this many orcs in such a small village? Something's not right. And who's that woman next to him? A companion, perhaps? Black Scythe has a companion? That's rather unusual, unless he's using her for some peculiar purpose. Another said to himself, "Her face is half and half, and she's quite buxom. She looks rather intriguing, heh." And I had no idea Black Scythe had such perverse tastes. They couldn't utter these thoughts aloud, but their minds were active, free to criticize even the president if they so wished. But they had chosen their adversary unwisely, especially when facing someone with runic abilities. At that moment, Ryu's eyebrows arched, and he curtly instructed, "Don't bother me. Just go away." One of the men stammered. "Excuse me?" Ryu said with a cold and angry look. "I said if you don't have anything to say, leave." The suddenness of his command was startling, but what truly irked them was his informal tone. And one of them questioned, "When did you start using such informal language?" Another added, "That's right. Isn't it impolite to be informal when meeting someone for the first time?" Ryu found himself equally bewildered and said to himself, "Individuals not even at level 13 daring to criticize someone at level 32. Then Ryu said to them dismissively, "What if, in the midst of a hunt, annoying little pests came buzzing around you? You'd want to squash them, wouldn't you? That's exactly how I feel right now. Don't trouble me. Just leave, unless you're not too attached to your lives." His words were met with silence. Then one of them urged, attempting to diffuse the tension. "Come on, guys. Let's go," another said to Ryu. "Sorry for the interruption." After that, the men retreated swiftly, and Ryu didn't take his eyes off them until they had vanished from sight. He was, in fact, reading their thoughts, and said to himself, "They must be lurking somewhere, keeping an eye on me." And they were evidently curious about my hunting techniques, hence their strategic withdrawal and decision to observe from a concealed vantage point. And he continued saying to himself, "Go ahead, watch all you want. As long as I achieve my goal, it doesn't bother me. And now, I should eliminate the boss and collect the rewards sooner rather than later. But before that, I'll level up Minjuri to 20. Shifting his gaze away from the departing men, Ryu looked at Minjuri and said, "Let's get back to hunting." But suddenly Minjuri inquired, "Why did you deliberately speak so coldly to drive them away?" Ryu said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Why did you use such an icy tone to chase them off? You used to be so gentle." Ryu, somewhat taken aback by her ability to discern his thoughts, maintained his composure and simply replied, "If I don't do this, they'll keep bothering us. I have to make it crystal clear that I'll eliminate them if they dare meddle again." And he reassured her, "Just focus on hunting and pay no mind to them." Going to the group of men who had been shooed away by Black Scythe, one of them said aloud, "Perhaps we're out of his line of sight by now?" Another asked, "But what's our plan here?" A third chimed in, "It's curiosity, my friends. We're itching to discover just how this enigmatic fellow, Black Scythe, carries out his hunting." Another said, "Ah, yes, that thought has crossed my mind as well. I'm also intrigued by where he's sourcing all these orcs from." Yet another inquired, "So, what's the strategy? Shall we sneak closer and observe?" One replied, "Don't worry. As long as we stay a reasonable distance away, we won't be noticed. And if you're feeling scared, well, you can always hang back," he said bravely. "Fear? Not in a million years. Let's move." Having mustered their courage, the 5 men ventured closer in the direction where the Black Scythe had been spotted, and one of them whispered, "I see him, over there." Then they glimpsed a quaint thatched cottage, and just beyond it, the Black Scythe in the throes of his hunt. And one remarked, "At this range, we should remain concealed." At that moment, Ryu was outside the cottage, and when the orcs appeared, Ryo cut off the limbs, and orc corpses thudded heavily to the ground. Once he'd created a substantial pile, the Black Scythe turned away, as though his part in this macabre dance was over. Seeing that, one of the men pondered aloud, "What in the world is going on here? Why hasn't he finished them?" Just then, Minjuri, as if anticipating the moment, thrust her sword into an orc. Then one of them wondered, "What? Is he helping her level up?" Another mused, "Why on earth? What's his motive?" It was an incomprehensible sight, the number 1 ranked player squandering precious time leveling up with another woman. Then someone said, "What kind of pleasure did that woman offer to earn his help?" Good Lord, Just look at how easy he makes hunting seem. Their perspective on the matter was profoundly altered. Some of them, toiling to bring down a single orc, now felt a pang of frustration as they watched others amass experience points with minimal effort. But suddenly one said, "Isn't something rather peculiar here? Take a closer look at that woman." This part ends here. Do not forget to like and subscribe and write in the comments your prediction about whether Rio will kill them in the next part or not.